Hello, everyone. Hello, thanks for joining. Oh, yay, chat works. Sweet. Yeah, we got this shit working and rolling. Cool, let's go. Happy. I finally got the vertical thing all settled out, framed and whatnot. It only took me a couple hours to figure out. How's everyone doing? Thank you for joining. We're gonna wait here for a second for everybody to kind of tune in. Hello, Ace D Superfan. Nice to see you again. Now I'm not as discombobulated. How are you? No, I'm sorry you're not doing good. Maybe hanging out in the stream will help. I know there's some cool people here that tend to help moods. Absolutely glad you could join. I'm glad you could join too. Well, I'm glad you like my streams. They get a little unhinged sometimes, but I'm glad you like them. I like doing them. That's why I'm doing them regularly. Every night at 8 because I like doing it. So, you know, I get to paint. I do all the things that I want to do in my day. I'll do my errands. I'll get canvases. I'll get paint. I'll do whatever I need to do or want to do in that day, and then I save all of my painting time to about 8. And then I just hang out with chat, and I gotta finish this commission piece, the edges I gotta finish, and then ship it out, and then I gotta wrap that, except I gotta measure it and put it in boxes, and I'll probably do that on a live. I like hanging out with y'all, I really do. So, I'm definitely glad that you like my streams. Definitely. I'm also, what's the word? Expanding my moderator list. So if you're interested, definitely make it show in the chat. You know, if you see someone being dumb, call it out. You know. So, yeah, if you're interested in being a moderator and tuning in for each stream, then let me know, because I'm definitely looking for more moderators. Yeah, you can do that right now. I shall Night D subscribe so I could. Let me. Let's see. Oop, buttons. There it is. There you go. Fun stuff. I'm gonna kind of get started a little bit. Gotta grab this brush. Absolutely. Absolutely. Welcome in, welcome in. Missy, moderator, Easty, superfan moderator. Say hi. Look at that. I'm just adding black trim to this side, even though the tape wants to be a little screwy. I'll probably do another little bit. For surezies. Also, Ace D, you should join the Discord. We have a Discord. The Discord link, I can link the, I can put the Discord link in the chat, or it is also in the video description. So, and you'll be able to see all the art tips. If you're an artist, there's art tips. General chat. Actually, let me bring up the panel. This one. There's general chat. There's polls. There's behind the scenes. You can share your art if you're an artist. Ideas and inspiration. What inspires you to create, and what gives you your ideas. You can post pictures of what inspires you or what gives you ideas in that chat. Yeah, super fun. I have posted into the there's another panel now. There's another channel called Eris's Art Tips, and I post into that little tidbits of like what paints and what colors match well, and that sort of thing. What different palette sizes do, and little tips. So yeah, definitely check that out. Fun stuff. And I do have a fly in here because I had an event where my garage door was open. So there is a fly that has escaped my wrath. But I plan to get him sometime during the stream. He likes to fly around me when I'm doing this. So if you hear a buzzing noise, I guarantee you it's the flies on the microphone and not your audio being an asshole. Get away, I'm doing work. As regular viewers know, I have a tendency to name shit. Just because I get bored. So if this fly continues to survive, I'll probably name him too. I have a red toad outside my studio, and sometimes they pick him up and I'll show him on camera. His name is Fred. So, yeah, there's a whole bunch of weird canon so far. So, welcome in. Oh shit! You know what? I forgot. Wah 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 wah. Oh well, that's probably not good to have there. Freaking razor blade. God damn. I do need to get more water before we start those two canvases, but I have enough. That's a lot of water. To do this. Maybe. I might have enough water. Shit knows. Let's see. I also haven't bought gloves yet. So, painty hands. I usually have black gloves. I just have kind of lapsed on buying stuff because I knew I was going to have an event. And I usually buy like 4 or 5 boxes of them at a time, and I didn't know where I was going to put them. So now that the event is over, I just gotta buy a whole bunch of shit again. So, yep, we'll get there. We'll get there again. Not a worry. Actually, I'm not gonna use this one. I'm going to use these two. Sometimes I will mute the microphone and I will listen to music. So, I won't do that right now because I'm just chilling and chatting. But, if when I do that, if you want to know what music I've been listening to, just ask what I've been listening to or what I am listening to, and I will happily put it in the chat. I also have a Discord for it, so in the Discord, it is live stream music, I think, is the channel name, and I post the ones that the music tracks, because I listen to a lot, depending on how long the playlist is. The ones that I really like, that I really kind of groove to. So, super fun and interesting. Might actually do that. Aw, blurry again. Stupid frickin' camera. See you later. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, new piece. Awesome. My computer needs fucking life support or something. There we go. Not really sure what to draw today. Still gotta work on that other piece, but I want to take a break on it. So, not that piece or that, not any of the commission pieces, the space one. But I figured we'd kind of mess around with a new piece. Let me face this way. I still have to put the name on the back. Did I say 1? I'm at 7. My bad. Yeah, that's a 7. That's an easy fix. I just gotta put a little slice on it. I wrote a 1 for some stupid fucking reason. I was like, it's not January. What the fuck is wrong with me? 7, 9, 19, 6. White pen went where? I'm still a little discombobulated just because I spent all day outside. I did close early today because it was just like straight thunderstorms for a good couple of hours. Oh, there's a light. But it's all good. fine. For whatever reason, that is being an asshole. And I think, not sure, but I think I lost the Linux stuff. So, I mean, it happens. It happens, every couple of streams I put something down and I lose it. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. It'll pop up. Actually, I put these. I'm gonna throw on some music, and because YouTube hates everybody sharing music, without, you know, licenses and shit, I can't do that. So, if you want to know, what I'm listening to, just ask, hey Aris, what are you listening to? And I will type it in below chat, and I will link it, so you can, maybe find some new music. Alright? Cool. Wow, hey KL! How's it going? Haven't seen you in a while. My chat seemed to go away again. That's a little frustrating. Huh. Weird. That's so weird. I mean, I can sort of see it. It's just not over here again. Let's see if I can refresh chat. No, still can't see it. So weird. Bring this up on the phone again, I guess. That's so weird. I can't see the live chat on the phone. I can't see it either. I can see it happen, but once it's done, I can't see it. That's so weird. Hang on, let me kind of do some debuffing. That's supposed to be on. I don't know why that's not on. It's so annoying. Yeah, I just finished Flora Aura. I just put it away because I was spray painting and I didn't want overspray on it. Congratulations to the subscriber, Asaploco, who submitted the name in YouTube chat, and it was discussed and polled on in, the Discord. So congrats. Hit me up privately, like DM me if you want your, free painting, which is your gift. So here's, Flora Aura. course my camera would go blurry, wouldn't it? Let me go grab the thing so I can just kind of put it up against the stand. This needs to dry for a sec anyway, so hang on. Hutch. Yes, it is a step stool because this thing is so goddamn big. There you go. Got my big old head out of the way. That is Flora Aura. Yeah. Just taking that down for a minute. We got all of the mountain and stuff looks good. The Aurora looks good. Everything on this looks absolutely fantastic. Look at that. Yeah, it did, didn't it? So, yeah, I gotta wrap this, and I'll probably do that on a stream. I have to get a box that is big enough for the motorcycle helmet. I gotta measure it. Just making sure no overspray or any little speckles are on it. Nope, we're good. Cool beans. Look at that. Whew. I feel like this one might be a cave. It's kind of what the paint dripped out to be, huh? Wow. If you want to, if you want to know what I'm listening to, because YouTube hates everybody sharing music, just ask in the comments, hey Ayers, what are you listening to? And I will happily throw what I'm listening to both in the chat as well as in the Discord. And the Discord link is in the description. Okie dokie. Hey guys, again. Oh, hey. Um, I'm listening to music, so if you want to know what type of what I'm listening to, wow, my brain just took a shit. If you want to know what I'm listening to, feel free to ask. Hey, Eris, what music are you listening to? And I will link it in the chat. I'm just listening to music and painting and vibing, so feel free to do the same. So, chat, you see how I'm doing that? I added the light color first, and then I'm going over with the dark to add the shadows. Right now, I'm not too worried about detail. I'm just trying to get the paint down, for those of you that are kind of more or less following along. So right now, I'm not trying to just add all the detail, because I'm going to quickly burn out, because, you know, detail is a lot. It takes a long time. It's detail. So what we're doing right now is we're just adding the dark. We added the outline, and then we added the blue, the lighter color, where we wanted it. And now what we're doing is we're filling in where we want the darker color. And don't worry if you go over the lighter color with the darker color. We are going to blend later. And those of you that are writing down notes, light color first, dark color second. This was also posted in the Discord chat in a more or less similar phrased way. So those of you that are interested in learning how to do art with a similar community, click the Discord link below in the description. Because I do give out tips, tricks, stuff like that. So if that's of interest to you, definitely check out the Discord. like I said, we're not trying to add too much detail just yet. We're just trying to get where our color, just like what we did with Flora Aura. We adding the foundation of what we want first. And then we'll be throwing in the detail. And when you're painting something like a line or a hill, always go in the direction where you don't need to follow the line. So if your line is like this, right? I'll bring this closer so you guys can see what I'm doing. Right? So if your line is one of these, what are these called? Stalactites? Stalagmites? One of those? You would want to have your brush go this way, not this way. Because then you're going to get over brush on here, and then you're going to be upset. So don't do that. Brush this way. And that goes with anything, even blending. So when we blend, if the camera wants to pay attention and not go blurry, when we blend, we're gonna be taking the lighter color up as well. Oop, where is it? Up this way. It's opposite for me. So we're gonna be taking the blue up this way, right, and blending it in with the black instead of blending the black, because that won't work. It'll just cover over. Does that make sense? We're gonna take a break. I'll answer questions. Smoke if you got them. myself an indication when I'm painting and adding detail that this is separate. So instead of it being green, right now we're just trying to get the base color down, which is gray. I think I can count on one hand how many times I've been in a cave. I just don't like it. But they are really fun to draw and paint because they're gorgeous. They're just not my thing. So yeah, that's what we're doing. And so, see, where you see like blue touching the cave, right? You're going to want a lighter shade of whatever color hits that lighter color. So even if it's kind of dark when it, you know, when the lighter color is here and the darker color is over here, it still has some light reflection. Think of aha! There we go. Right? Come here. Let's use the studio light. Right? See how that is? Let me try to, there we go. See how that is? I can turn out this light actually. So it's a bit more emphasis on, there we go. See how that works? So even if it's a dim light, whoops, don't do that. Even if it's a dim light, there's still light here. There's still light here. Even with an object, even when I put it like this, right? If I can balance it. There's still light getting around that object. So that's what we need to do here. Right? Even if we're not realism, if you're a realism artist, you need to do that to the furthest extent. I'm more surrealism, so I have the ability to get a little bit loosey-goosey with light displacement. But that's the idea that we're looking for. I even did it with this piece, with Flora. I'll show you guys. So, when you go out in the full moon, right, if you look out, if it's full moon, if you live in the city, it might be a little hard, but if you live out away from city lights, it'll be a lot easier. If you're out in a full moon, you can see different shades of green. So, that's what we did here, right? So the further you go, the darker the green gets. Oops. Until it eventually turns, black and into the mountain. But the higher the mountain goes, the closer it gets to the light source, which is either the moon or, in this case, the aurora borealis. So you need to show the color of the transition of that light source. So if your light is above, you need to go down with that with the radiant, and then go in scales, right? Let me see if I can put this on the vertical view. Right? So think of our light source as over here, right? See how our shadows do that? You got more light here, so you got reflection points. Oops. You got reflection points. Down. Where are they at? There they are. Down. So you need to show, if you're realism, definitely to the highest point. If you're surrealism, like me, which I'm doing with this piece, right? Makes sense. So, when you have light in a piece, make sure you add that scale of darkest to lightest, no matter where it's at. But like, the way I do it, the way I figure it out is I grab my painting and I do basically the same thing that I showed you. Light source, if I'm drawing, that, I'm going to remember that this is white, this is black, and then when I get to detail later, I'll add that gray line, and then I'll blend. You need to add lighter shade of whatever color, or lighter hue of whatever color you're doing if a light source is hitting that. I'm glad that makes sense. Right now we're just trying to get the idea of it all down. So like, I'll know when I'm blending that this is a different color than that, and that's a different color than that. That way I can go in and add the hues, add the blends, add the detail, and add the scale of light to darkest to lightest, depending on where my light is. That's what the blue is, to show me where light is coming in. I can actually bring this a little bit more forward. It was pushed back because the other one was such a big piece. it better? Yeah, it's a little better. So we'll grab our darker black, right? And we'll grab a little bit of white to where it's just a shade of above of what we used for the black, right? So that's the color. It's like a charcoal. And so that will be our dark. Unless it's an absolute dark, which like this area will be. But you don't want everything to be that black. You want shades of black, you want shades of gray. You don't want everything to blend in, because when you look at everything, when you look at things either at night or in a large landscape, there are different shades. Like look at your grass. There's light green, there's lime green, there's dark green, there's brown, because sometimes there's leaves on the strands of grass that are dead. You know, there's little specks of them, because specks of color, because you know there's bugs on there. So you need, if you're doing either realism or surrealism, you need to think of those little things that non-artists may not think of, like the little flowers. You know, when you go into a field, there's usually flowers, huh? Especially that far out in, you know, out in the wilderness. Oh yeah, there was flowers. Oh Jesus. There we go. A little bit more water than I would like, I guess. And when you're making the shade, the hue or the shade of, gray or whatever it is you need, start with your lighter. I know this seems obvious, but some people don't know. Start with your lighter color. So I'll wash my brush off real quick. And let me find, oh, there it is. So it's a lot easier to go from, fuck, what am I doing? Lighter to darker. See? All you do is add a little bit more black. But see how drastic that changed? Just by a little bit of black. Right? This much black. See a little bit? Watch this. From this gray mix it in. Right? See how different that is? And if you don't, here's just a little bit more for you. A little bit more black. See what I'm saying? So, like, it's a lot easier to go from lightest to darkest than it would be to put black down and try to, see? See what I'm saying? It's a lot harder to go from black to white than it is to white through gray to black. So make sure you start with your lighter color first. You might be like, well, no, duh, Eris, but I've even made the mistake of going, well, it's dark enough to the shade of, the shadow that I'm using. So let me just put a little bit of white and then I'm there trying to get it to the exact. When before, what I did is I added the black, or the black to the white in portions instead of going backwards. Because it took me forever to get the right hue of gray, right shade of gray. Not hue, shade. And when you're blending, even with this, you're going to want to try to be about as sporadic. I feel like my pen is leaking even though it's a paintbrush. About as sporadic with your brushes when you're blending from dark to light. Because if you look at shadows, they're not evenly spaced. They're, strands of light. So right now we're just trying to get this top portion more or less figured out. Like I said, we're not worried about detail, we're not worried about how the cave looks necessarily right now. We're not worried about that. We're just trying to get our shade and our color and when the indication of color of when we do our detail. So like even with this, once I get more of this gray down, even with this rough throwdown of paint, I'll be able to tell when I walk away and come back what I'm doing. Right? Because I know for sure I don't finish a painting in one day, or one session, stream, whatever it is. And when you can't use the big brush to cover a lot of space anymore, you know what you do? You change to a smaller brush. It's that easy. And you just kind of work your way into the nooks and crannies of your, let's say, rocks. Now, I have a gray. I have a gray that I plan to use, which is this one. This gives me the ability, because this and this see, those are not the same gray, so we need to blend that. We need to take this gray, and I can tell just by experience that the bottom gray has a little bit of blue in it. Right? So, we're going to take a lighter blue. I'm probably going to do I have a light blue gray, which would be a perfect application if I could frickin' find it. me saying it. If I say I don't need much, you know me, I'm overly... Wow, that almost went down my throat. Overusing paint. So we don't want to do that. And just by adding a little bit of blue and a little bit more white, we have already come give me a second. Still blending. Come on. There we go. We have already come to more or less, let me add a little bit more black because it's getting a little bit more blue. And again, always add just a little bit of black. You don't want to overdo it. Remember how crazy it got if you added too much black. So just put the tiniest bit on the tip of your brush and mix accordingly. There we go. And already, it's more or less the same green, or gray. Wow, I almost said green. So, and even with a little bit of blue in there, that's going to help us out. Heck yeah, look at that. And don't worry about going over your line. Remember the little line that you did on your outline? Don't worry about going over it. You can always go short because that's when you're going to blend and do detail. I always tend to stop a little bit short of my line. Who knows if this is going to be underwater or just in a cave. That, I think, is up to the viewer or the person viewing the painting. And again, the farther you get away from that light source, the darker your cave is going to be. So since there's no light source here, right? Since there's light here, we're going to have a little bit of lighter color here, but we're not going to put it here. We are going to put it on this corner here. But it's not going to reach all the way down. It may reach here. And down. Remember, these are notes for yourself. The first coat is notes to yourself. If you need a sun, you're going to mark out a sun. It doesn't have to be a squiggly or, you know, a round bit or whatever your sun is going to be, your light source. You just need an indication of where your light source is going to be. Does it make sense? okay to have to change brushes every once in a while. It's just like having to change direction in life. Just because you change direction, whether it be a career, whether it be in a relationship, whether it be with friends, you know, like, you just don't vibe with your friends anymore. It's okay. It's okay to change direction sometime, a lot of times in your life. Freaking, I don't know, 8 years ago, I didn't think that I would be doing this. Not at all. Not at all. So don't be surprised of where you end up if you have to change direction. Change direction, change brushes. It's all the same if you think about it. That's why I like painting so much. Thank you. One of these days we'll do like a Bob Ross paint along. But I'll give the, I'll put it on YouTube posts and the Discord when I do plan to do that. So I'll give everybody time to get, and I won't do a big painting. I'll do like a, this size. I'll have the community tell me how big the painting is that when we do that. And of course, Missy, I'm happy to help. I know a lot of people join the both the lives and the Discord to kind of figure out how to paint, because there's a lot of I wouldn't say misinformation, but just a lot. You type in like basic 101 blending, and it's a 2-hour video, and it's easy to just kind of go numb and start having like showing my age here, freaking fax machine noises, you know, just dial up, static, you know. So I try to give those tips both on the Discord and here, as well as did I drop that? Yes, I did. I was like, what fell? Both on the Discord as well as on live streams. And I'm kind of starting with painting, and then when later on the date, in the future, I will not move it, but gradually guide spray paint sessions, or like, you know how I started with this, right? You know how I did that bottle? I'll give you guys cool tricks and stuff as well. So definitely tune in to those. It'll be fun. And now we're using a small brush. You see how fine this is? See how tiny that is? Here's the brush we were using before. Right? Here's the brush now. And this one, the one that we're using, is for our detail. And so when you do detail, aim away, not far, but like I said, aim away from what your line is, because paint has a tendency to spread, and you don't want gray to spread into your blue, or you don't want yellow to spread into your black, because it's a pain in the ass. So you want to aim. So like, let's say we need a little bit of this color. Let me bring you in a little bit. Right? And I will pull the painting up a bit more so you guys can see in detail. There you go, right? Push this a bit down. There you go. And I'll push it back so it's not up in your guys' face, and you're not like facing my back, because that's kind of how I paint. When you do your detail, you're gonna want to aim, so like, let's say our black is here, right? See wherever our black is, right? See this gray? So there's gonna be a black line here, here, here. So you're gonna want to pull away just a tad. And see, even where I pulled, away, let's see if I can find it on camera. I need a camera that zooms, and I am getting a new camera. It just takes time, guys. See? See the black line and see where I pulled away? Even if I pull away, right, it still pushes paint towards that line. That's why I say pull a little away from that line. Instead of painting directly on that line, right, instead of painting directly on it, pull a little away from there. Just a little bit away. Doesn't have to be far. It just needs to be enough to where when you, let's pull this up a little bit, to where when you pull that detail line, it doesn't push it over into the other color. It's one thing if it's, you know, dark on dark or light on light, but it's a different thing if it's contrasting colors, you know, yellow and blue. You don't want like a green streak in the middle of your sky or whatever it is, right? So I have this thing. Right? I use this thing sometimes. It's called the Color Fidget. They're not sponsored. I just use this in the studio. So like, let's line these up. So you'll see here that it has a whole bunch of the colors, right? And direct opposite of those are the contrasting colors. So if you want to do, and this isn't the way it's supposed to go. I'm just showing you all of the colors, right? So if, let's say you're working with black and blue. Now this doesn't have black, but it does have gray in the center, which symbolizes both black and gray, or black and white. So let's say I have dark blue, and so we're going to push it to, if my hands can function. There we go, sort of. There we go. So we have dark blue, right? Let's say dark blue and purple. Right? These would be, on the bottom here, the adjacent colors. So you don't want to use right? So if you're using blue, you don't want either this green or that yellow. It helps to figure out the contrast, and complementary colors is the word that I was trying to think of. So like, let's say I'm using blue, and I'll show you how it works. So let's say I'm using blue and teal and all of those colors, right? So this shows me complementary colors, which is these two ones right here. And then this one right here is the contrast color. All right, and I'll bring that up. See how that works? It's always a fun thing to mess with. So when we're working with this, we don't want like a yellow, right? We don't want a pink out of nowhere, right? Or like a magenta. It's one thing when it's like this piece, right? So like for the flowers of this piece, right here, I wanted them to stand out. I wanted them to both complement the sky, because some of the sky was used on that color as well, but as well as contrast with the green that it's against, right? So I didn't want it just green and then sky. I wanted something grass and then mountain and then sky. The only way to do that would be to add shading within that line. So your point of view would be those flowers and then onward and then onto the mountain, right? But you don't, like I said before with the moon, the full moon, your light needs to reflect off those pieces, whether it's surrealism or realism. Even just, let's say abstract. Let's say this one, right? So this one does a lot with blending, right? So when you have the blue and let's say the yellow, what color does it make, guys? Blue and yellow. Come on. I just said it. It's great. So there's a little bit of green in there. There's dark green in there. And then there's purple, because, you know, blue and red, purple, blue, right? So even when you have like the light, right? There's light right here. There's a lighter shade of whatever color is near it. There's no realism or surrealism here. How come you have, you know, shades of light? Because it tricks the mind when the person's looking at it, tricks the person into thinking that, oh shit, now that I'm talking about it, I forget the whole brain thing. Basically, your brain tells you that there's light there when there isn't light there, therefore bringing the viewer into your painting a little bit more deeply. There's the words. I had the word. Depth. Crap. It doesn't help that I have holes in my brain, like literal holes. That's why I kind of, this happens. What was I saying? Right, hues and depth and light and shade. So when you're making something from, you know, when you have like a blue here to dark, you want your light to represent that, right? And when you're doing your foundations, right, you'll have light, you'll have dark, you'll have in between, right? And then when you go in and do detail, that's when you'll be like, oh, okay, the shadow twists here, or there's something to manipulate the light to where I need to put white here to add a highlight. That gives your brain indication of where you need to put the detail. There we go. Like I said, I was in the sun for, yeah, I forgot there was a fly in here. I was in the heat for a few hours, so my brain is kind of trashy right now. I am going to get a drink. I will be right back. Don't go anywhere. Feel free to get a sip of water or whatever you're drinking. Cheers. I'll be right back. Okay, cool. So when you're adding shadow, right? This up above is the darkest or the farthest away from light. So you don't want this to be light. You want this to be darker. So you're going to go from dark to light depending on where your lighter colors are. Does it make sense? Any questions? Cool. I think I got bit by a mosquito. blending into what you're working on, right? And that'll give you the ability to not have blocky blends. We don't want blocky blends. Light isn't blocky. You know, light has, and even shadows have different darks, they have different lights. Shadows may be a darker gray or, you know, a darker whatever it may be. So, when you're adding your blends to what you want them to be mindful of that. You know, there are different shades of gray. There are different shades of, I wouldn't say black, but there's shades from gray dark enough to be black without being black. But your question as the artist should be, how dark is my shadow? Because like even with my hand here, this shadow right here isn't black, is it? It's just a darker shade of what it is there, right? Even like my face, right? Even the shadow around here, it's not black, it's just a shade different than where your light source is, right? So you got to remember that when you do shading or blending or light or whatever it is. You know, if you're drawing comic book characters, right? Lighting is everything. Lighting is everything with comic books and, you know, anime and manga. You know, there's a lot of difference, especially in that line of drawing. There's a lot of difference between this, right, and above, right? There's a lot of theatrical difference between those two lightings. So you need to remember of where the light source is in those style of drawings, whether you're doing anime, character drawing, whatever it is, to where light source is a big deal. That's what I'm saying. Like, realism, surrealism, yeah, definitely with abstract and surrealism, it's kind of loosey-goosey. But when you get to character drawing and trying to portray emotion, whether it be from a character or an event like, you know, Aurora, or the Flora Aura. God damn, I have too many paintings. You know, there's light, whether you're doing characters or surrealism or even just abstract, right? So lighting is a big deal in art. Doesn't matter if you're character drawing, abstract, surrealism, expressionism, frickin' Van Gogh uses that lighting all of the time. Lighting, shading, all of it. No matter what your artistic niche is, lighting and shading play a big deal in it. So that's why I'm going over it in different ways and manners, because it plays such a big portion into art. Right? Right, so I'm taking account to that my light source is pointing up. Oops, sorry. Vertical, can't see. There you go. Right? So our light source, these are our streaks where we want to follow, right? Remember when we did that? We did these streaks, right? We did that on purpose. That's to show us the direction of where the light is going. Let's follow that. Where does that go? Oop. There we go. Where does that go? Right? So we want our shadows. This is really hard to do, and it's a direct opposite from what I'm doing. We want our shadows right? We don't want our shadows, again, it's so hard to paint and hold it. Oof. The camera that I'm getting, I'm going to be able to zoom and track myself, so I won't be able to, I'm not going to have the manual camera. This will be, I'll still use this camera, but it'll be a secondary camera. I'm just waiting on a bunch of commissions to come through. That's all. And then I gotta figure out how to use the damn thing. So you want your light to hit, and you want your shadows to contrast, but also complement against that light. So I'll show you guys. Watch. So on this little hook here, I need a smaller brush. I need a smaller brush. Brush. We need a smaller brush. I'm sorry, I'm really weird. And again, if that's your cup of tea, then cool, welcome in. But I am very, very weird. too, so, you know. I try to keep it interesting, that's all. Right? So, if our light is here, we don't want our shadow directly sitting in the middle of that, right? We want our shadow within a crease. So our shadow is going to go right here, right? And, you know, painting is only one-dimensional. It's flat. So you as the artist have to give that flat image depth. You know what I'm saying? This cave can't look flat. It can't just be one solid thing of gray, right? That wouldn't make sense. So you as the artist need to tell the viewer how deep the cave goes. That's your job. Or how far the valley is. Where the person's perspective and how far the painting goes. Right? So, for this one, right? The flowers, oh fuck, if I can hit it without touching the ceiling. The flowers are closer than, like, you know, anything else. You don't see the strands of individual strands of grass the farther away you go, right? You don't see that even in reality. It just starts, merging into different types of green. So, and again, this is at night, to where your sense of color and your sense of depth and space. All right, take care, Ace. Thank you for tuning in. Where your sense of space and depth are different. But highlighting is my favorite step ever. I'm glad I'm glad you like highlighting. It is super fun to figure out as the artist where the light source is. It's pretty neat. I hope to see you again tomorrow. We will be starting at 8 every night Eastern time. So take care, bud. See you later, Ace. Ace D Superfan. Thank you. And I'll see you tomorrow. So, like, as the viewer, right, you need to show what is close and what is far away. Because if it's one color, the person will be like, what am I looking at? Right? And especially if you're in character drawings, right? If I'm reaching out towards the camera, what is bigger and what is smaller? Let me put this away real quick and I'll come back. Right? So, if I'm reaching out towards the camera, right, what is bigger and what is smaller? that tells the viewer what the direction is, right? So when you're drawing and he's like, hey, you, get over here, you know, scorpion style or whatever it is, it can't just be, you know, that, right? You get what I'm saying? You could get the angle, you could draw a straight line, but what a lot of people do is they go this way rather than needing to go this, they go opposite, They go this way rather than needing to go this way, right? Because it's bigger towards the camera. Does that make sense? So, if you're doing rocks or characters, whatever it is, if it's closer to the viewer, you need to show that. It needs to be bigger. If it's a flower and it's like the viewer is close to the flower, you need to show the individual strokes of, you know, white to off-white of the flower petal, or, you know, a ladybug on the flower petal. You need to show that depth to be able to bring the viewer into your painting. Immersion. Fuck. That's the word. That's the word I was trying to figure out earlier. Immersion. It immerses the viewer into your painting. Fucking golf balls in my brain, I swear. So, as the painter, as the artist, as whatever it is you're doing, when you're doing depth and highlight and scale and shadow or whatever it is all together, all of that goes together, right? So some of these may be farther away, right? These aren't all just flat. See what I'm saying? So you need to add size, you need to add scale, you need to add whatever it is. You need to figure out, even with an abstract painting like this started, right? And it may be still abstract / surrealism, right? But it still has that immersion to tell you where the depth is, where, you know, scale is, where light hits, where shadows are. That gives the viewer the immersion of, oh, I'm looking at a different insert here, right? Whether it be a time, a place, a person, whatever it is, that gives them their brain the ability to go, oh, I'm looking into this rather than it just being a flat painting, whatever it is. Right? Does that make sense? So that's what we're going for. Even with this. Sound good? I am going to call it there. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. And remember to check out the links in the description of the video and the Discord. That link expires, I think, every 30 days. So every time I do a video, it'll be a new link. So definitely be on top of those for the Discord. Thank you everybody for tuning in. If you liked the session, Like, subscribe, share, comment. Really helps the algorithm. It really helps people find my channel. Again, I am a full-time artist. I do live streams for fun, so I am taking kind of time out of my usual work to hang out with you guys. Again, I do love it. I wouldn't trade it. Don't get me wrong. But to be able to reach more people, it does help. It's the only thing that I'll ask of you is to like, share, subscribe. If this is kind of your, cup of tea. I appreciate all of you guys, and see you later. Have a good night.